So hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar. Uh, well, we planned for a short one, but so this webinar is on the open source metas, Llama and Mistral. So we're trying to deep dive as much as we can in the next 15 to 20 minutes, and hopefully, if you have any question, feel free to ask. And but this webinar won't be as technical as won't be a technical webinar. It's more for business case, how businesses can leverage Llama and Mistral AI. Okay. So before we start, can you all see my screen? If you can see my screen, just put something in the chat, just to make sure that the screen is being shared properly. And so there's a few of housekeeping there. And also, we have a chat. Feature. So if you want to ask some questions, please do put it in the chat. And I might not see them, but we have someone with us that can go through the questions and try to help you in the chat as well. At the end of the presentation, I'll be happy to go through any of the questions that's in the chat. If we do have enough time, we try to have a roundtable discussion for everybody. So yes, do use the chat, and you can also follow us on Twitter at kicktronic.com or my personal Twitter, Nene. So it's Kicktronic and Nene on the Twitter. Let's go on the agenda. So the agenda, as I mentioned, this is a brief webinar where we quickly touch on some more understanding of open source, what does it mean for the AI, and do some deep dive into Meta's Llama. We'll also explore Mistral AI. I'm not sure how many people here heard about Mistral AI. So can you put your hands up if you heard about Mistral? Any hands? Is it new to everyone? Okay, so we will also, it's great then. If it's new, then we will go through some of the comparison of Llama and Mistral AI, and also compare the open source licenses, because there are discrepancies. Not all licenses who have the label open source are actually open source. And I also want to touch on the Gartner hype cycle for AI 2024. This is exactly where we are right now with the AI hype, and also look at some of the generative AI pilots framework, or should I say a workbook that you can use to make your own decision if you want to start your own AI-based project. Some case studies about Llama and Mistral AI and how to use them in different for different business cases. So one of them is marketing, the other one is customer experience, how you can leverage those AIs to help your business achieve all those key goals. Okay. Yes, and then we touch on the Q&A session where you'll be free to ask any questions. I will try to answer as much as I can, and then we will end the agenda. Sorry, end the actual meeting. So my name is Nene. I'm principal architect here at Kicktronic Limited. So I have about 20 years of IT experience, which to some might seem quite small. But I've been an open source advocate for a while now. I focus a lot on cloud native architecture, blockchain, and AI experts. I'm also an author, do blog, write some articles for some of the most known IT blog sites, and also a podcaster. So Kicktronic Limited, which organized this webinar, IT company based in London, in the UK, and they focus on digital transformation, artificial intelligence, blockchain, cybersecurity, IT strategy, managed IT services, and IT staff augmentation. All right, now that this is out of the way, let's now get into the interesting parts. So straight away, let's jump into trying to understand what open source AI actually means. Okay, so open source AI refers to AI projects, right? Where a company like Meta, a very large company, over 1.something billion users worldwide, decide to start a project and make it available to the public to access, to use, to modify, and to also distribute. In some cases, you can then distribute it under your own label. So you could have your own brand on the product that you're distributing. So really open source refers to the AI project where the source code is publicly accessible for use, modification, and distribution. But as you will see throughout this webinar, that some of those open source licenses don't really apply nicely to AI projects. Okay, so we will touch on that. And some of the importance with being open source are the innovation. The more people involved, so the larger the community, the collaboration, it accelerate the technological advancement through community collaboration. So more people working on it, and more ideas coming, more creativity, more people can bring in new features to the platform. That's what open source really brings to the table. Okay, and we also have this transparency with open source where anybody working on the code can scrutinize the code. You can look at the algorithms to see how the algorithm is being implemented. And if you want to, what we call, game the algorithm, you can also see it because you have access to the algorithm. You can change it, you can optimize it, and more importantly, you can scrutinize it. But open source makes it accessible to a broader audience. So when a software is open source, anybody that has a connection to the internet can literally download it. You can go to GitHub, or in the old days, you could go to SourceForge and try to download the code, run it on your laptop. In terms of artificial intelligence, you probably need a very powerful laptop with at least 60 gig of RAM. But if you do have one, you can run it on your laptop, or you could run a Llama on your laptop, you can run Mistral on your laptop, or you could just get one of those cloud environment that you can release at the end of the day if you no longer really need it. So that's what open source brings to the table, innovation, transparency, and accessibility. Anybody can have access to the code as long as it's open source. You can download it, modify yourself, and distribute it to either your clients or internally. You can sell it, right? So, again, we just touched on that also on the collaboration and community support, because we harness the expertise of our global community of developers and researchers, from the private sector to the research community, such as universities, colleges, even some of the larger organizations such as IBM can also have research department, and they can get involved. Normal individuals can also get involved into the all open source movement and try to, fix some of the issues that the code may have, add some new features, even if it's just to document some of the features. Documentation is very important as well. So, and it's not just writing code, right? That's part of the collaboration and community support. As I mentioned, also around transparency and trust, you have access to the code, you know exactly what the code is doing, so you're more likely to trust it. And if you were to work with a smaller company and the company goes out of business, at least you still have access to the code, right? So your business will not have to stop because of that. It could be cost efficient, right? So, multiple hundreds of people working on the code, you do not have to do it all by yourself. You can leverage the work that's already been done. In terms of AI, it could be difficult if you were to create your own model. Facebook, Meta, invested over $100 million just for Llama. Not every business is about $100 million to invest into a platform, but open source allows you to reuse that $100 million investment from Meta into your own product or into your own platform. So it's very important that cost stays really low, that you can leverage the cutting edge technology developed by a larger group of people coming together. And in the context of Meta Llama, that model can also compete with the closed source versions such as ChatGPT or Gemini. Okay, but open source also have its challenges. So we look at some of the challenges around security. So one of the challenges with open source is making sure that the code being introduced is not malicious code. Right? We don't want to have code where we have bugs. Bugs might be okay because you can fix it, but you don't want to have codes which have backdoors. You don't want to have code which have Trojan horses. And for that, it's a challenge for open source, but at the same time, because the code is open, you can actually scrutinize the code, as we mentioned earlier. So it's no a showstopper, right? But it's just something to bear in mind that, okay, if anybody can write code and commit those code to your project, how do you restrict? How do you put guardrails in place so that you do not get malicious code? You can have code reviews, as such. You could have your main committees for your project, and then any other code that comes out of your main committees have to be reviewed before being integrated into the main code. And that takes us to quality control, because now you are reviewing your code and you have to make sure that it meets the high standard in terms of coding standard, in terms of algorithm, efficient algorithm, and also in terms of intellectual property. You do not want to have a code that belongs to a person or an organization to be added to your open source project, because that will open kind of legal issues for you. You will end up in front of courts, and you probably lose, because if they can prove that your project violated the intellectual property, there's a chance that they can close down your open source project. But in the context of Llama, which is great, Facebook did a lot of work to avoid any intellectual property issues. Not that it's going to be safe, 100% safe, but at least they're providing the support that if there's any problem coming in the future, they will actually step in to help. Okay, so let's look at Meta's Llama actually. So you also the news. Meta recently introduced Llama 3.1, which everybody got excited about, and so it's developed by Meta, and the Llama, large language model Meta AI, as it stands for, aims to provide a scalable and efficient AI solution. So some of the key features that Llama provide is scalability. Coming from Meta, I'm sure that we all trust that they do understand how to scale applications. They have Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram with billions of users. So they do understand how to scale applications, especially to handle large data sets and complex models. Another key feature is the modularity. So Llama has been developed using components which can be used independently or as part of a larger system. So you can pick the part that you want and add it into your project, or you can, instead of using the full Llama platform, just pick what you need and work with that. But at the same time, you can also use the full platform. Components allows you to embed some of the functionality directly into your own application. Okay, so user friendliness, well, it really depends, because my interaction so far with Llama has been through Python. So I'm not sure how user friendly is that, but it's quite straightforward. It's not difficult to run it, and I was able to write some Python code quickly to interact with it, put a gateway in front, and integrate it with some systems. So some of the unique selling points from Meta: advanced architecture tailored for performance and flexibility. They have the experience through Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, just to mention a few. They also have a strong community support and ongoing development. Okay, so quickly on the technical overview. So Llama utilizes what we refer to as the transformer-based models optimized for large-scale data processing. And the fact is, a lot of those new open source, even those closed source AI models like ChatGPT, also do use transformer-based models for training their data. And the design principles here focuses more on efficiency, scalability, and ease of integration. So they want you to be able to take the application or the component that you need and integrate into your own platform at speed. Okay, and some of the use cases that they did mention, and we can also see language translation, sentiment analysis. So if you wanted to find out what your customers are saying in the reviews, or on a social platform like Twitter or Facebook, you can get that natural language and run some sentiment analysis on it and try to identify what make your customer review leave some negative reviews. So that is a good use case to have. Also, computer vision. So if you wanted to recognize images and label images, if you are in a business that requires a lot of image recognition, or even if you run a factory and you want to identify some of the product or some of the machinery that you are running and try to identify which one were faulty, you can also use this as a computer vision to take a picture, or maybe use a camera or a sensor that's that's already deployed on the factory floor. That will send you the image. It will process it and say, okay, oh yes, this robot is actually faulty, right? So you can do that too. And recommendation systems. So something very similar to what we have Amazon. You go to Amazon, you buy a product, it recommends you another product that other people bought. Or when you're on Netflix, you watch some series, and then the content also recommends you other content that's very similar. You can also use it for personal content delivery to your clients or your customers or your partners. So you can use it as part of your marketing. Okay, so the community, Llama's community, being Facebook, so community contribution are welcome. I'm not sure there is that much at the moment. I'm not sure there's that much contribution from external developers to actual Facebook. I keep referring to it as Facebook. You can tell what generation I'm from. So Meta at the moment hasn't really made it clear if there's some external contribution. Look at the GitHub page, and a lot of the contributors are all from Metas so far, unless it's been updated since then. But Llama has a great integration with other popular AI tools such as TensorFlow. So if I remember correctly, TensorFlow is from Google, and PyTorch. So PyTorch is a Python AI tool that you can use also to integrate with Llamas. So the ecosystem is quite extensive. So there's a lot of libraries and tools that support various plugins and extensions. A lot of money being invested into Llama, as I mentioned, $100 million so far from Meta. So that's a significant investment just to provide this tool, this platform free to the ecosystem for anybody, any other companies to use for free, with an exception. If you have more than 700 million active users, then it's no longer for free. And that will restrict companies such as Google, Apple, Microsoft to use Llama for free. They might have to get directly in touch with our Meta and come up with some other agreements, maybe some commercial agreements. Okay, so Mistral is a much smaller company. They're actually based in Paris, a French company. So like myself, from Paris. So Mistral is based in Paris, and their focus is on providing a robust and flexible AI framework suitable for complex AI workflows. Mistral has actually been working with some of the banks. BNP Paribas is one of the banks that they're working with. They run a lot of the AI and automation process for them. And what some of the key features for that is flexibility. So highly adaptable to various AI tasks. You can use Mistral, which is one of the most popular AI frameworks today, with Llama. You can use it for multiple AI tasks, various AI tasks. So it's not just a single solution, but you can adapt it. Also, it is designed for reliability. So if we run an application that requires high reliability, critical applications, then Mistral is definitely something that you should look at. And it's also optimized for high efficiency and speed. Very interesting. So some of the unique selling points for Mistral AI are enterprise-grade performance with a strong focus on reliability, as we discussed briefly, and extensive support for integration with other enterprise systems because they're focused on the enterprise environment. And so let's look at some of the technical overview. Sorry, just. All right. So the architecture, similar to Llama, is built on modular architecture to support diverse AI applications. So again, modular, pick the component that you need, deploy the component that you need for your business case. Right. So the emphasis here is modularity, performance, and robustness. Right. So Mistral is saying that, look, our platform is very stable, right, high performance, and you can use it in mission critical environments. Who knows, maybe send someone to the moon. Okay. Now some of the use cases that Mistral discussed in their papers, and we can also see in some of the environment that we have ourselves, around data analysis. So enterprise applications around data analysis and process automation. Mistral is used a lot in research and development around experimental AI models, prototyping. We know some universities currently using Mistral for that purpose, and also in customer experience. So enhancing customer interaction through AI-driven insights. That's one of the use cases, which very similar to Llama. All those use cases are not typical to just those AI platforms. Llama can also be adapted to enterprise application, research development, and customer experience, and Mistral the same. Okay, so let's look at some of the similarities. We now understand that both Llama and Mistral are both open source AI frameworks. They're very popular. They're actually the two most popular framework. Google also has an open source framework, I believe, called Llama, but we know that Gemini is not open source. So we didn't bring them to the same category of having Llama and Mistral as proper open source solutions. They both have strong community support and ongoing development. They both use a modular design for flexible integration. Okay. So some of the differences between Llama and Mistral are Llama is optimized for scalability and ease of integration. As you can understand, Meta runs Instagram, so they know what scalability is, right? They have the experience of that. We mentioned it. We can't stop mentioning it because that's a fact that it's probably hard to beat Meta in terms of designing scalable application, but it's also suitable for rapid scaling and diverse applications. Mistral, on the other hand, focus on robustness and enterprise-grade performance. If you run in a bank, you do not want an application which is not robust. You want a very stable application that can also scale on demand. All right, and some of the critical applications running in banks cannot afford to even go down for 10 seconds. So it's ideal for critical applications requiring high reliability. And the preference scenarios, Llama is best for project needing rapid development and deployment. Not to say that Mistral is going to be used for rapid development and deployment. You can also use Mistral for the same, but Llama make that as one of the preferred scenarios if you wanted to get up and running. But Mistral is suitable for projects demanding high reliability and robust performance in enterprise settings. You can use them both. You can have Llama running in a high reliable environment. It all depends on how you architect your environment for scalability and high availability and disaster recovery. Okay, so let's look at some of their open source licenses. Now here we have Meta, Llama, and Mistral. So they're both open source, as we mentioned. I mean, this is what the whole webinar is about. But they do not use the more, the open source license that the community come to know over the last 20, 30 years. They don't use Apache 2 license. They don't use MIT license. They don't use a GPL license. They use their own license. That, for example, Meta, Llama use a community license agreement, and Mistral use an AI non-production license. All right. So even though it's open source, one of the issues that we have with open source licenses, such as Apache 2 or MIT, they do not cover data. In the world of AI, data is very important because you use that data to train your AI models. And therefore, how do you license that data is very, very important. And that data will eventually belong to somebody. In this case, with Llama, it belongs to Meta. So you're using Meta's data, how many billions of points, data points in there, that they're making it available for you free of charge to use and develop your own framework. Now, because of that, they could not find any licenses in the open, and they come up with their own community license so that it can also allows you for greater protection in terms of patents and in terms of intellectual properties. So it is very important that you do look at the actual licenses, especially the Mistral AI non-production license. If you go in Mistral and you need to go into production, it's okay for research and development, but if you go into production, you may want to speak to your lawyer and get in touch with Mistral to discuss the new terms. With Meta is more restricted in terms of what you can add to the code base, but it will not stop you from going production as long as you follow the Meta agreement. So something like Android, the way Google licenses Android, I would say this is how Meta Llama community license is equate to. Okay, so In conclusion, we know that the both open source application, we know that Llama is best for projects requiring strong patent protection based on the license, because Facebook will actually back you for that, and a widespread adoption in commercial settings. While Mistral AI license is ideal for projects in maximum flexibility, ease of use, especially in academic and research environments. And do look at the license for Mistral, which is a AI non-production license, as we see here. That's very important if you are going to use it into your application and making it available to external users. Okay, so looking at the Gartner hype cycle for AI 2024, a lot of the AI that we hear today, so from sovereign AI, AI tourism, prompt engineering, which is quite popular on a lot of the social networks, responsible AI, and AI engineering, edge AI, foundation models, synthetic data model, they are the peak of the hype at the moment. And a lot of CTOs, CXOs, or even companies may be thinking, okay, what is the actual killer application for this AI? It's not about finding deploying the AI and then try to find a problem to solve, but look at what problem you currently have within your own organization. So if your organization you have your business vision, you know what you're trying to achieve in the next 5 years, you know what your current issues are, maybe you're getting a lot of returns, if you retail, a lot of return back after purchases, maybe it's customer servicing, maybe is we mentioned things like sentiment analysis earlier. You have to look at your problem, start from your problem. Do not start from the technology. All right. If you start from a technology looking for a problem, your project will fail. And it will just be pure hype, and you will invest money that you're not going to be able to recoup in your ROI. Okay, so right now there's a lot of hype around AI, and most of the projects that we see right in the market right now that companies are embarking on are customer service and marketing. So those are the two big projects that we see investment coming in. So if you were to go and start your own AI pilots, let's look at how we started generative AI pilots. Again, from Gartner. So this is the framework provided by Gartner. And if you were to start your own generative AI pilot, then you follow some of the phases. This is just one of the frameworks. There are multiple frameworks available over the web. Different companies, Deloitte will have their own. Architectronic will also have something that's very similar to Gartner. But you will initially start from your business problem. So what problem are you facing today? And from there, you will generate some ideas about those problems. Okay, how do we solve those problems that we currently have? How do those problems align with our business vision? Right? And once we have that, you have now the use cases, and you prioritize those use cases again based on your vision, the business vision, the alignment with business goals. For the ideation phase, you have to make sure that all the stakeholders are involved at this stage. Then if you want to formalize the pilot team, you move to the design and iteration phase. Now you have a team of 5 people, 2 people, even an external consultancy like Electronic could come in and say, okay, we want to look at your use cases and see how we can move with the pilot. And this is now what you have to actually take into consideration: the cost of the pilot. Is it worth investing? Are those use cases high enough within the business objective that we need to invest into the pilot? Because the pilot can cost up to hundreds of thousands of pounds. And once you have the pilot, you have your technical and your solution architect, your enterprise architect all involved. You move into the design. The design have to be, again, aligned with the priorities, aligned with the business goals. The technology decision here has to be aligned with the organization vision before you move into the iterate phase, where you will start building, testing, refining. Now, the difference between this framework and the one that we actually have at Architectronic is that the design phase is also part of the iterate phase. So because we believe that you may have to go back to the design, refine the design, and build and test it again, and refine the design, build and test it again. So once the pilot is completed, this is where you actually decide, did that pilot meet all the goals that you set from the beginning? Is it something that you feel that is actually worth deploying to your customer, to your client, to your partners, or even to the internal users. And this is where you decide, because once you do go into scaling, there's another cost involved now because you have to make it production ready. Okay, so that is that's a roadmap based on Gartner, and if you're interested, I can share it later. I will share this presentation anyway, and you can have access to it. Let's look at some case studies. So the first case study that we're going to look at is the marketing campaign optimization, so using Meta Llama. And this case study was for a global retail brand, and they needed to analyze vast amount of customer feedback to refine marketing strategies. So some of the feedback were coming from Twitter, Facebook, even the likes of TikTok. And they needed to be able to analyze it. So they used Llama natural language capabilities to perform sentiment analysis on customer reviews and social media mentions. So based on that, the outcome was that they enhanced the targeting of marketing campaigns. So the company were more targeted, more segmented. And that resulted in a 20% increase in customer engagement, just by understanding what the customers were leaving the reviews and why were they leaving those reviews. And most of the time we're looking at, because no one trying to fix a positive review, so it must be about the negative sentiments. Why are they living in negative sentiment? Because that can affect your bottom line. And by understanding that, you can target your marketing campaign to be more, to have a better result, and increase in customer engagement. And Llama's NLP was used for that, and the results were, exactly what the company expected, to be able to increase the customer engagement. But you could also use Mistral AI for this case study. Okay, I'm happy to discuss why Meta was used instead of Mistral, but yes. So the other case study now, this one was for a leading telecommunications provider, similar to BT. And here the challenge was to improve customer service response times and satisfaction. So the solution deployed using Mistral AI to analyze customer service interactions and provide real-time support recommendation to agents. And the outcome here was reduced average response time by 30% and increased customer satisfaction scores by 15%. And as I mentioned, you could just, you could swap those two platforms. You could have, instead of Mistral here, you could have Llama running, and with the same goal of reducing the average response time and increase the customer satisfaction. Right. So this is just one case study that we wanted to touch on briefly, because those are the two major case studies currently being used in the industry by most companies. So on marketing and customer experience. Let's summarize some of the key points here. So we discussed, we touched on understanding open source AI. Open source AI project provide publicly accessible code that promotes innovation, transparency, and accessibility. The importance of collaboration, and transparency, and cost efficiency in AI development. We also touch on the benefits and challenges of our open source AI. So, for example, some of the benefits were community support, trust flow transparency, reduce development costs, but we also have some challenges that we touched on. And challenges around security concerns, maintaining quality control, navigating intellectual property issues. But in terms of Llama, we, now everybody knows that Llama is developed by Meta to provide a scalable and efficient solution. And some of the key features of Meta are scalability, modularity, and user-friendliness. The technical overview of Llama is based on a transformer-based architecture optimized for NLP, computer vision, and recommendation systems. They have a strong community contribution and extensive integrations, very similar to Mistral. Mistral AI also focuses on robustness, flexibility for complex AI workflows. Key features are flexibility, robustness, and high performance. We touch on the technical overview of the modular architecture for diverse AI applications, particularly in enterprise settings. And we saw some of the use cases around enterprise application, research, and customer experience enhancements. So the comparison of Llama and Mistral, so we do understand that they are very similar. So the similarities are the both open source frameworks with very strong community support on modular design. The differences are Llama optimized The difference are Llama optimized for scalability and ease of integration. And then one of the other differences that we have is that Mistral focused on robustness and enterprise-grade performance. So preference scenarios, Llama is suitable for rapid development and deployment projects, while Mistral AI ideal for high reliability and performance in critical enterprise applications. Okay, so now let's move to Q&A. I'm not sure if there are any questions there. Okay. Okay, so do we have any questions there? Anybody want to ask question? I do not see any.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
We've got a question here, and it says, what specific business applications can benefit most from using Llama?
Okay, so we mentioned about the likes of Llama. If you are to work on an application that you're going to provide to external users, so a production, a commercial application that you want to develop, where people will use, you would charge those applications for end users, you can integrate Llama. And Llama, as I mentioned, is just another AI platform similar to a lot of those are closed source. You can use it for things like sentiment analysis. You can also use Llama the same way you use ChatGPT today. Llama has that capability. You can ask Llama to summarize. You can have conversation with Llama. You can create conversational chatbot with Llama. So whatever you can do with ChatGPT today, you can do it with Llama. All right. And if you're to create, I mean, chatbot is a very good example. If you want to provide a customer service directly from your website, then you can develop your own smart chatbot using Llama as the backend. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, there was one, but I think you answered this. It says, can Llama be tailored to specific industries such as retail, healthcare, finance, etc.? Is it open to different kinds of businesses?
Llama is very adaptable. You can adapt it to all industries, I would say. Any industry that goes through digital transformation can leverage Llama for some of the process automation. So yes, the quick answer is yes. You can adapt it to your industry. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, so if there's no more questions, I thank you all for attending this webinar, and do not forget to follow us and like us. Like our page to stay up to date on our next webinar. We have a webinar next week, same time, same date, same time, and follow us on LinkedIn page for the latest information. Also feel free to reach out if you need any clarification on today's topic. And thank you all and goodbye. If you have any question, reach directly to me on LinkedIn, or you can also follow the page as I mentioned already. So thank you for attending. Goodbye.